Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to this Monday, November 7th Board of Commissioners meeting. First item of business is our public comment, which would be for anyone that is not on the agenda. So I will open it up, and the room's a little different, but if you can kind of come forward to either side would be great, and then our YouTube will be able to catch it. So is there anyone here for the public comment section? Okay, not seeing any. We'll move on, and we have Bethany Hurley with a program update. Good morning, Bethany.
Good morning, guys. How are we?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. I just wanted to get a little update on all the things we've been running and doing through Purdue Extension. So I've got a huge list, but I'll just kind of hit them real quick on what we've done, just so you guys kind of know. So 4-H enrollment's open again. We had 536 kids last year officially complete through 4-H. We're obviously shooting for a bigger number again this year. Still working on getting COVID numbers back up from what they were. We also help with the Bulldog Club after school program, going in and influencing kids, captive audience, kind of helping with that. We had a huge success at our Halloween bash. We normally have about 200 people come to that, but we had over 500 show up, so that was super exciting. Got to influence them through the positive things we could do through Purdue Extension, and obviously in talking about 4-H. My exciting part was we saved 30 lives that night through the blood drive that we did, so that was kind of cool. Esmeralda, she does a lot of the Hispanic Heritage Festival. That was another huge success this year. They said this was the biggest event they've had up there so far, the Prairie Creek events area, the park, whatever it's called. They had over 2,500 people attend that this year, so that was a huge success. So working on 21st century scholarship stuff with kids, impacted 80 families with that. FSA night, or the FAFSA night, was 72 families they impacted. She's still working on the emergency fund grant to the immigrant families that need assistance. They're at about $40,000 with that this year, getting money to them. They've helped 96 families so far, so that's kind of a cool impact. SurSave is a program that we do that we help businesses be able to keep their restaurants going, partnered with the health department on that. We have an 85% passing rate. Next class will be in April for that one. Adam with A&R. He did a Central Indiana Ag Day out there, partnered with Dunn Brothers Farm. Had a nice success day for that one. That's Central Indiana, so it's our area that we involved with that one. We had a farm tour. Haven't done that since 2013. It was a huge success. That was back in July, and we actually went to Clint Orr and the Stafford farms and kind of did tours there with those. He's working this winter on a farm financial winter program, kind of giving ideas of how to, financially stay afloat with all the craziness that's happening right now with life in general. So kind of helping to farm financial with that. And then Outlook breakfast will be April 10th. You guys are all invited. Free breakfast and kind of looking at the outlook of 2023 ag life. And then we had a great success once again with our farm to table program that we go into the schools. We teach to all first and second graders about a different thing that you can grow from farm to table. This was carrots this year. Did you all know that you can have purple carrots? And it takes 2 years for a seed to grow. So that's kind of things that we would talk to kids about. And the last thing I want to touch on is everyone in this room and online are invited to our barn bash that we're going to do as a fundraising opportunity for Purdue Extension. Just a fun evening, and I can leave these here for you guys all to grab one if you'd like. This will be in January, and it's just a fundraiser to help with all these programs that we do all year long. So whatever the grand total income we get, what is to be divided by our 30 educators and used running forward. So there's an update. That's pretty quick. I just want to let you guys know what we've been doing.
Yeah, we'll try and make some announcements for
Yeah.
the safety.
Is that on 100 North?
Yeah, so it's the farm just outside of Bike Hunt Central on Division Road. Yep, Dunn Brothers Farm.
The only question I had, so you mentioned there's 536 participants in 4-H.
Last year.
Last year.
Officially completed. Yep.
What kind of pre-COVID number? Like, what's that drop off?
We're getting pretty close to back to those numbers. So we went way down to like 300 completing during COVID. We're kind of getting those families back and gaining new families. Summer Kids Workshops really helped with those, getting those numbers back. and being able to touch a new audience that we have never been able to touch before. So my goal is 700, but you know, if you don't go, you don't have to get there. So that's kind of ours. And doing it different ways, obviously going to Bulldog Club, being able to touch those kids, their programming, doing Spark programming now instead of just, hey, come join 4-H. We present them an opportunity then to be able to be in 4-H with different things that we do.
And I think the misconception sometimes is 4-H is just livestock, and
Right.
in reality, there's a whole
Yeah.
other side of it that are projects.
Only out of the 536 kids that completed last year, only 187, I think, had some kind of animal. Everything else was what we consider building project or some sort of park in that. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, very good. Any questions there?
Very good, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Next up, we have Liz Stitzel, and we kind of have a handful of things under your item. So let's just maybe start with the area plan update, and then we'll work through the LUPAC and the ordinances that are here listed.
Can I use the pointer?
Yeah. Feel free.
All right, so in terms of area plan update, obviously the mowing season is pretty well done. I had one thing from Kat. And she asked me actually to ask you, Bert, but South State Road 39, there's a complaint down there regarding, and I think they called you before too, Josh, but a house, and she's been by. She's not able to make a complete determination of everything the complaint involves. She wanted to find out if somebody could ask the complainant to call her, see if she can get permission to walk back on their property in order to verify the rest of what they're stating, because she doesn't want to cite, and I agree with this, it never goes well when you cite somebody for two things, and then when you go out to deal with those, you add a list of two more, and then you add a list of two more. It always goes better to list everything that's the problem, and then to either resolve it or remove it as you work your way through. Kat has tried to reach out to the owner and has not had luck, because she was hoping to be able to just walk directly on property. So that kind of brings us back to trying to see if we can get in touch with the complainant and verify what they're seeing from their property.
I've looked at it since the telephone call.
No, I was gonna say there's a couple properties.
Oh, this is 3880, so I'm not sure about the others either. I would guess she hasn't had an issue with, or
3880, is that north of State Road 38?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably,
yeah,
Green
it
house.
used to be super overgrown. We tore down a barn there,
Yeah.
or they tore down a barn, and
All
we
the front
cited a
road
barn.
and all that stuff.
septic on it.
It, I mean, it was a dilapidated property before this owner. It certainly hasn't gotten
Right. I know.
any better.
Uh,
And the only two things aside from overgrown vegetation she can see from the road is an attic window missing and a hole in the porch roof, neither of which indicate the structure is actually coming down. So she wants to be able to view the back, the other side, to see if there's additional structural issues that would make it clear that there's actually an imminent collapse to allow for a condemnation citation versus fix your window, which obviously just continues kicking the can down the road.
The party that called me is not a neighbor there, simply 4, 5, maybe 6 houses. I'm not exactly sure where they live, to
Okay.
be honest.
Okay.
So to get access from that, but I've driven it, and if you look at it, it's obvious from the road, many issues that are being neglected. So.
But we don't have the power to cite, so like our ordinance does not include chipping paint, for example, because we cite every farmstead out there. I mean, the property is definitely dilapidated, but to condemn structurally, to tear down, there has to be something that indicates collapse. So we can cite them to replace the window, certainly.
Let me reach out to the neighbor.
I was gonna say, I can
So-
put you in contact with Mr. Robbins.
Okay, and we are working on it. It's just, she didn't want to just keep one-upping that, so she asked me if I could ask her.
It just needs a lot of attention.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, she dealt with them on the barn, and all the way through back when that was torn down, so, I think we've mowed that a few times, so, but anyway, she had just asked me to ask if we could get contact so she could, if it really is just a damaged porch roof and a broken window, then we can fight for those two things to be repaired, but what we seem to be getting is that the whole house is in risk of collapse, so we're looking for, maybe on the other side, the roof is coming in, or, something that would indicate that from another direction, so.
Yeah, I think there's more there. So I'll reach out to the neighbor and see if they can put you in contact again. get access to.
That's perfect. And they don't have to file their name.
Yeah.
She just doesn't want to, even though we have the right to go stomping across people's property and take a sheriff with us, it's not usually a good place to start if you can avoid it. So if we can get there with somebody's permission, that's always better.
Any other area plan updates?
And that was the main thing, other than obviously we've got two loop hacks to deal with, unless you have anything else for me generally.
Do not.
But I will ask her, just to double check to make sure there's multiple properties down there in Antioch, not just that one, we don't miss something.
Okay, so we'll move on to the loop hack, which will be 1022-369. I believe it's tied to ordinance 2022-11. This is the one we tabled at the last meeting. We were hoping to have some conditions applied to it, stipulations, so.
Yeah, so Tom and I worked on that, and Jay Moore, Area Plan Commission attorneys, also reviewed this. But we do have the prepared statement of commitment, so it needs to happen before you guys act on the rezoning. Is I believe they're here. They need to sign this. Tom is a notary, so we need to have this filled out, because then that means as soon as your meeting's over, I can take these commitments and record them, and they're then legally binding with the property. I don't say eternally, but pretty much permanently, until or unless a group of commissioners removes the commitment in another rezoning hearing. So I did bring that in final form. I did, Tom, just because I don't know how much you caught last minute, Jay had recommended on the commitment, adding the words event center, just to make it a little more clear, since the reception hall is not a defined term. So the way the commitment ultimately reads is no uses are permitted on this real estate except that of a reception hall / event center. The reason why, when everyone conversed, it was done that way versus saying everything's a special exception is because state law does not give commissioners the right to hear special exceptions. That has to go to the BZA. So it could be very questionably legal. And if we send every other use to the BZA, if the ordinance says it's a permitted use, they have no grounds to deny it. They're going to have to approve it. So we haven't really changed anything. So as done this way, state law says to remove or modify the commitment, you must bring it back to the county commissioners. So you would then have the opportunity, if somebody wanted to change it to, even though you're not hearing the use, you could decide whether to amend, modify, or remove your commitment, and that's 100% legal.
Okay.
So
Questions?
you're good.
I'll open it. Let me open it up to. I guess I'll go to the petitioner first. I see she's here again. So, are you agreeable to the commitments that we've put in place?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's what we wanted the building for, so as long as we can use it for the event center.
Okay. And now, since I see some other people in the crowd, I'll open it up if there's anyone else that would like to ask a question or has a comment regarding this loop hack and ordinance.
So you guys said so in the future, if we sell it, they have to come back to you guys to be able to run a different kind of business.
Correct. It'll be specifically tied to being an event center at this.
They have to come back to the commissioners to modify the condition, but then if the use the new people want isn't permitted in the zoning ordinance, they would additionally have to follow that process for whatever that was they were doing.
Yeah.
So I thought it was just, they didn't want like a liquor store out there, bar, stuff like that out there.
That was what we had heard at the last meeting. What she's saying is to further define it so that it comes back to the commissioners rather than going to a special exception at the BZA. This was the cleanest way for us to do it.
The only legal way.
Yeah, in the only legal way. So it'll be defined that it's an event center going forward. It's zoned for that. So if someone would purchase it in the future and they wanted a different use, then they would have to come before the board
To get that condition
Yes.
modified or removed, and then they'd have to follow the zoning ordinance like everybody else for whatever it is they want to do. Or if what they want to use it for isn't allowed in the B2 district anyway, then they would just straight do a rezoning, and the new rezoning would eliminate the previous rezoning with commitments.
Okay. All right. So I will, I guess I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I would
There you go.
recommend we have them go ahead and sign, and Tom sign off first, so that
Okay.
we've got that, assuming that they're agreeable with that commitment, because commitments cannot be forced. They're Tom, do you want to go ahead and just record that after you stand it, or do you want? Okay, yeah, that'd be awesome.
And then if you wouldn't mind having either the recorder, or if you want to send me a final copy with the recording stamp for the file.
What's that? Okay, so we have the voluntary signatures for the commitments, and now we can entertain a motion to approve LUPAC 10-22-369, as well as ordinance 2022-11.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion carries 3-0 to approve both the LUPAC and the ordinance.
And you guys are through your rezoning process, so you're into then permitting and, you know, doing what you need to do to open it up. So just reach out to us, you know, and we'll help walk you through that process.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So next up, we have another LUPAC and ordinance, and it'll be 1122-370 and 2022-13.
Yeah. So this is the request of Homer Abbott, and just to give you some general information, this is north of town, on the west side of Delphi Avenue. If you're familiar with the old Sheets Market building, and then there was a house that actually was condemned and removed by the commissioners. That's probably been 4 years ago now, if I was guessing. That sat just to the south, and the house property and the market property are in common ownership. The southern one has been zoned low density residential in the past, and the one with the market on it zoned our roadside business. With the house removed, there's not been any real use for either one. The current owner had purchased it, did clean up the property. We have ceased to get complaints. He had pulled a permit to use the old market building for personal storage. And then he kind of slipped an apartment in there, and the health department had communication with him about needing a septic, and then that rolled into communication with our office. I will say, once we talked to him, we did immediately filed a rezoning request, went through the area plan commission, and now we're here. And he is asking to rezone both parcels to R4 high density residential, which means they would then be usable together without having two tiny spots in different zoning districts, both of which are not really of any use. High density then would allow him, he would like to eventually convert the garage into an apartment and potentially put another one in the market. Now, of course, there's no sewer there, so he's going to be subject to whatever septics allow. But from a zoning perspective, this would allow him to rent out units on that property without physically living there himself. We heard this, went through, there's quite a bit of duplex and multi-apartment units on the Frankfurt side of the line, which is just, the city limits line is just within a few hundred foot to the south. There's one property basically between this southernmost lot and the city limits. So there is quite a bit of high density housing in that area. There's a single family dwelling directly to the south, and you've pretty much got farm ground. The Area Plan Commission did forward a favorable recommendation for the rezoning, both because of how much high density zoning and use is within the immediate vicinity, but also because we have existing buildings here that have previously fallen into disrepair, and having a use that's suitable for them seems to make sense. As nice as it would be to reuse the Sheets Market for something commercial, there's not really parking there or room for a modern commercial septic, or the other things that you would need to have a commercial structure of that size. So it seems to make more sense to allow a less intense use that can keep those buildings maintained going forward. Of course, they're subject to building code and zoning regulation, otherwise it's just the rezoning is before you.
Is Mr. Abbott here today? Do you have anything that you'd like us to consider that she's not said already?
No, she's been great.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that has a comment or question in regard to this? Okay, seeing none. Thoughts?
I make a motion to approve Back. 11-22-370 and the accompanying ordinance 2022-13.
I'll second that.
Motion carries 3-0.
So, again, same thing for you. If you want to contact us, we still need to work with you to figure out the building code side for the apartment, but there's no question about your right to have use.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations too. Condolences too.
A lot of money in there.
Thanks, Liz.
No problem. I say, I don't think there's anything else.
Okay, all right.
Continue. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, next up is Rick Campbell with the highway update. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning. I was working in the East Meadows addition for the last 2 weeks, recutting the side ditches and blowing pipes out. And we finished that up Friday, other than we need to change a couple pipes and blow a few more pipes out, but everybody out there's been really good on it, so. And we crack sealed 450 West, which goes in front of Prairie High School. It had some pretty good sized cracks in it, so we went ahead and crack sealed that. I sent the commissioners an email with my bookkeeper's resignation, and I've been looking at a couple of good prospects. And I was wondering if the next commissioners meeting I could announce who the new bookkeeper's going to be. I'm still kind of studying on it.
I think we need to wait personally, because her resignation's not till next March, right?
Right.
She said March 23rd, and then she would work until April.
Right.
So, in my opinion, we need to look at the job description with HR, and we're gonna have to put the vacancy out there and have people apply for it and do some level of an interview process before we can hire. That's my one opinion, so I'll allow the other two to share what their thoughts
I don't have any issues with that.
are.
I have to advertise it.
Yeah, I think, so. Yeah, that's typically what we've done. I mean, even if internally, when we have somebody step away, we pass it around to all the department heads that are in the county and open it up to people within the county first. So we'll have to take those steps and then have an interview process.
So we'll get that done.
Yeah, we'll work on that. So we have, 4 or 5 months. So
There's a lot to the job, and we need to get somebody in there so she can train them.
I agree. How much time do you think needs training?
I was going to bring if you guys would let me announce it next meeting, I was going to bring somebody in 1st of December and pay them the truck driver's rate until the end of March when Joanne would leave.
What if we consider starting at the beginning of 23, and then it's in the next budget cycle, and that gives us January, February, March? I mean, that's 3 months. I understand, so there's a lot to the position, but I would think 3 months of training would be sufficient.
Okay, that's all we do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, next item is we have a amended contract with the Utility Service Board for call-outs, and Renee and Tom had worked on this with Todd Corey and Alicia Alberts, on the USB attorney. Renee is not here today, but she sent us a little excerpt kind of explaining the situation. I'll just touch on some of the highlights so it's clear what we're doing. In 2011, at the time, the Central Dispatch Board and the Utility Service Board entered into a contract that would pay Central Dispatch a monthly fee to handle after-hours calls. Over time, things have changed, and the Utility Service Board found an opportunity to get a utility-specific after-hours call service in there, and so they've elected to do that. But we would continue this agreement with an amendment because both parties see that the dispatch still gets outgoing after-hour calls, even though you sign this new service up. And so At the time, the contract was for $3,000 a month and $36,000 a year. The new amendment will be for $1,000 a month and $12,000 a year. Renee highlights that typically when there's a large power outage, that they're busy with a lot of other calls as well. And so this is really going to help her department internally managing things a little better, having the ability for those calls to go to the new provider for the utility service board. So I guess I'll ask Todd if you have anything to clarify or correct me on or add to that. Kind of just skimming it.
We put this in place, I think, if I'm not mistaken, back in March of this year. And we had some bumps in the road at first. And, like for instance, there was somebody hit a pole. Dispatch was calling our call service. They was calling out. We got it worked out that, that's normally pretty much an emergency. A few minutes can save a life. So they're calling dispatch or they're calling our trouble people. But for the most part, it's been working. It's really working out well for all of us. And I know it's taken a lot of stress off of dispatch, especially like this weekend with the wind. They would have been getting calls all day long. Yeah. And then our dispatch will call in, our dispatch, or the new dispatch center will call in our resident dispatcher, and they'll get in there and take relief of the call, which central dispatch used to do as well. But right now it's working out well, and we want to continue the relationship to the best that we can at this point.
I think that's the key. This has been mutually beneficial, this change to both sides of the equation so far. Yeah. So open it up to questions, comments, or entertain a motion.
I have none.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended contract between the USB and the Clinton County Commissioners Dispatch Service.
Second. Motion carries 3-0. Next up, we have the payout number 12 for McGuire Iron. This has been approved by our engineering firm, HWC. It requires no signature, signatures with the building corp. So I guess I'll just entertain a motion to accept the payout number 12.
So moved.
Second. Motion carries 3-0. Last item under old business is ordinance 2022-14. If you recall, back in, I'm going to say late May or early June, we had a citizen come to us concerned about the speed limit between 39 and Alhambra on 200 South. And so we had hired VFNS for a speed study, and it came back that it's currently not posted, so it's 55 through that area, which is highly residential. This would reduce that to 45 miles an hour. So this is the ordinance to reduce the speed limit on 200 South between State Road 39 and Alhambra Avenue.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-14.
Second. Motion carries 3-0. Two copies. Right here. You both of them signed? Okay. I just saw there was two there. Three of those, okay. We'll get those after. All right, next up, we have calling it basically a registration letter. So I'll try and summarize this, and Tim maybe will jump in and correct me where I'm wrong here. But there was the state held a cybersecurity event for Clinton and Carroll County. And within that event, the conversation led to municipalities having .gov websites. And currently, as everyone knows, ours is .com. And so this letter is basically the first step for us to apply to receive Clinton County Indiana.gov domain address. One of the critical things that Tim took away from the meeting was in the future that any grant funding, even related to, say, EMA, if you don't, the county doesn't have a .gov website, they may not receive the funding for the grants. So it's being controlled from the federal level that we have .gov website. So this letter is basically us asking permission to receive that, which is protected by an entity at that level. I don't know, it's what, direct Homeland Security maybe? I'm not sure who's in charge of it.
Yeah, it's not directly the government, but it is a regulatory group that controls who gets the .gov, so not just anybody can have a .gov.
So, if we received it, we would essentially convert our .com address to the .gov address. That transition, I would assume, will take quite a few months, but this is kind of the first step. So this would be making a motion for myself to sign this letter that we are requesting the authorization of the Clinton County, Indiana .gov domain.
Motion to approve the president and signatures. Second.
Motion carries 3-0.
That'll cost us money.
I think it's actually pretty affordable. So that's one thing I should mention, right? Like it's not,
It's potentially free.
yeah.
Never have to change all of our business cards.
Well,
Unfortunately, that's likely.
ancillary
Yeah.
cost, yes.
We'll still have both. We have to actually keep the .com. That will never go away.
It'll just redirect you to the .gov.
Correct.
Next item is a commitment letter for Bridge 30. This is the one that we have hired USI to go after federal funding for. And here is kind of the commitment letter to apply for it, as well as the projected cost, federal funds that are requested, and then the local match amount. Anything I'm missing there, Katie or Rick?
That's correct.
Okay.
I can answer any questions or go through it in more detail if you guys have questions.
Clear to me. I don't know if there's any questions up here.
Down here.
None.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to sign the commitment letter.
So moved. Second.
Motion carries 3-0 to sign the federal funding commitment letter for Bridge 30. Okay. Last item under new business is we have a quote from QPH. This is for repairs to the heating system at the courthouse. And so if I understand correctly, we basically had some issues for years, and we put Band-Aid after Band-Aid on it, and they've continued to expand to the point that they're probably about to break. This is just maintenance to get the heating system up to speed and kind of fix a lot of those issues that have been going on, according to our maintenance department. The quote is for $5,502.86. So I don't know if there's questions or thoughts on that. So.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion carries 3-0 to approve the QPH quote. And so it'll be changing a couple actuators, some sensors, as well as some valve assemblies. Okay. Department heads. Brett, good morning.
Morning. As you may or may not know, we have a K-9 in our agency, and we would be retiring that K-9 due to medical issues. So the good news is that the kennel that we bought it from is going to honor the warranty and replace it. So that's good news. But at the next meeting, I'll have a document for you guys to sign that just states that the county understands that we are no longer responsible for medical issues after that.
Okay.
And once we get that done, there are grants and funds and organizations that are willing to help retire K-9s with continued medical issues. So as of the 21st, we'll have him retired and probably get our new dog maybe late December.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so what happens to the dog?
He has a spinal and vertebrae issue. He also has a rare bacterial infection that really stung in Purdue. We've had him over there twice in the last 2 months for surgery, and they're reaching out to other vets, schools to see if they've ever recognized this. So finally, they said, you got one of them, unfortunately. That's what I have. So, and Officer Hillman and his family is going to take the dog out.
Okay, that's what I was interested in.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they're very happy with that. And
Good.
we'll have it done in 6 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Any other department heads? Mr. Mayfield?
Yeah, I think the sheriff had sent you an email on the SRO situation at Clinton Prairie. Did you guys get that?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so, right now, we're trying to get a full-time SRO out at Clinton Prairie. We're trying to come up with funding right now. Ashley has a little bit more information about the money part of it.
So what Clinton Prairie reached out to us and said they'd come up with a little bit of money. They have a school safety grant matching. So essentially they can put forward approximately 53.5 through the end of their grant cycle. Their grant cycle goes to September 1st. So we just did some rough numbers with them. They should have enough money to cover through the end of the school year through August of 23, where they would apply for a new grant cycle and then ask for the full salary. So this is their way to get a full-time SRO. What the sheriff is asking for, so we don't deplete resources on the road, that we make that SRO its own individual line and open up a deputy line. There is a new MOU being drafted by Michelle Cooper, Prairie's attorney. She's also an ISA attorney, so they'll send that over once that's put together.
So we didn't get the grant that we applied for.
No.
But we're gonna apply again.
Yes.
And so would that overlap after August of 23 with their grant? If I'm understanding, because you said theirs runs till the end of the August 23 school year.
Their school safety grant is September 1st through August 31st.
Okay. And their
So we
funding
will
would cover that.
reapply for the cops hiring grant. I think we're even going to apply for the school safety grant as well for our own additional funding. Ryan Ashlock will work on that. The reason why we were not granted the cops hiring is because they gave preference to those agencies that have submitted an application prior.
Yeah. So hopefully this will get us into submitting the application prior to receive it for next year when we apply. And then there could potentially be their grant and our grant that could cover the position going forward.
So what we had talked about, this just kind of sped up our timeline. What we had agreed to is once the cops hiring grant were out, that they would cover salary and the county would continue covering benefits, training, equipment, et cetera. We would supply all that. It's just kind of moving the timeline forward, but we will still continue applying for those grants.
So my question, so it's just as soon as we get this memorandum of understanding completed and signed and all that, this person, we can put somebody to work out there. Is that my understanding?
Yes, the school.
Okay. And then what we would do is we would go to backfill that, we would hire another deputy.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Just because of the coverage, we don't want to lapse any coverage on the road on the side. And it gives the Clinton Prairie a full-time SRO.
Right, I think those are both very important things. Get started as soon as we can, get somebody in there to fill that position, so.
So would the SRO start before we hired somebody though? If we approve?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's
okay. That's okay with me. I mean, it's not my department to run, but I mean, you know, kids are, I don't think anybody can argue against that.
Because right now, I mean, we just, we have a couple days a week. I think it equates to 10 days a month in both of our county schools, because that's what they could produce on their school safety grants, because schools do that as outside employment for the deputies. That's overtime for the deputies.
So I'm going to kind of shift a little bit, but I know originally the conversation was for both Clinton Prairie and Clinton Central, so I feel like I have to ask what's going on at Clinton Central.
So we've shared the information with Central. We've asked them if they have the same ability as what Clinton Prairie has. As of right now, they have not come back to us with an answer to my knowledge. So we will continue running them as the current setup. It'll be an overtime detail for outside employment for the deputies.
Okay. I think it's important that we, once we get this memorandum done, that we have a template in place that we're willing to offer to Clinton Central as well. And hopefully in the future, the grant we'll get the grant and then it'll be able to supply both schools with that. So yeah.
I'm good. What do you need from us?
Just approval for the SRO position. If we get the memo of understanding in place, we'll bring it to you and present it to the county, the council as well.
Okay.
So, side note from SRO, the sheriff would like one of you to come over. My understanding is the new flu project is expanding beyond what it was anticipated to be. I'm not up to speed on
Correct.
that very much, but it sounds like a bigger project, or it's becoming a bigger
Right.
project. So he would like wanted you to come over.
Okay.
And go through the building.
I'll come over.
I can do that. Oh, you're gonna, you go right ahead. I gotta work with the fire department tomorrow, so I wouldn't be able to get there till Wednesday.
I can come tomorrow at like 8. Terry will be available, or the sheriff.
Sure.
We have a meeting at 9, so.
Yeah, you're fine.
come
Just
before
shoot
that.
him a text message.
All right.
He's at another appointment this morning.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
Thank you.
so I guess to summarize, I'll entertain a motion to approve the position for the SRO that will take effect when the memorandum of understanding has been approved by the commissioners.
Do we have the understanding? I mean, why would we approve it now without seeing what the memorandum says?
Well, I think we'll have to say in the memorandum. I mean, Tom will have to review it, and we'll have to review it to make sure it's okay, so. This would allow for the department to get the process going for hiring, because I know that's been a challenge, just getting applicants.
I don't have an issue either way. So I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve it. So.
Okay. Second. All right, so we approve the SRO position contingent upon the approval of the memorandum of understanding.
Thank you.
Any other, Stephen? I assumed you had something. I didn't think you were just gonna show up and want to be an observer.
So first, if I could ask, I don't know if it needs to go through you guys, the city, who exactly, the pedestrian sidewalks in the middle of Walnut Street. Could we please advocate for some markers to protect the first responders, fire department, us, sheriff's department, MPD? I was planning on coming and asking for that anyways, and Saturday at 9:30, we had an ambulance end up catching one of them and caused pretty significant damage to wheels, so.
What did it hit?
There's cement, like, I think close to Schultz's Market, they put cement in Buckman's like they did back with CBS, man.
It's a
And
pedestrian
it got like 3 of them.
walkway.
Yeah.
We got one
Oh,
at
okay.
the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
it's just
not real
unbelievable.
sure.
So like they were driving a Virgin to a call, they went to pass a vehicle, they didn't see it over the top of the vehicle and caught it as soon as they went to pass.
Sadly to say, there's like 3 of them, I believe, or maybe 2, I haven't really counted them. But
Yeah.
they're right in the middle, you cannot see them. And I guarantee you, our highways, well, the state trucks are gonna plow right back up, just like we had problems with them on CBS.
Well, that one at least it had an incline going up. These are just curved. I don't know. I thought it was a mattress laying in the road.
In that direction.
We have a meeting, do we not, with the
Yeah, we do.
tomorrow? Today?
Today.
No, I think it's in December, isn't it?
It's in December,
I think
you're
it's
right.
Like December
Right.
3rd.
Yeah, that's on the list. Also, in front of your place there on Jackson, we're gonna ask for some lighting.
Okay.
For the school crosswalk there in the morning to help with that, so.
That'd be great. Okay, yeah. We were proactive and we warned everybody ahead of time and said,
Yeah.
just be aware, but in the moment, there was a lapse of awareness and the accident
It
happened,
happens,
so
yeah.
thankfully nobody was hurt.
Yeah.
We will try and have those discussions then and maybe even before then. But it's within DOT and it's gonna be challenging.
Yeah.
Understood, thank you. And then I just wanted to get an update on the paramedic program. I spoke at the council meeting in October to kind of give them an update of, we had attended the COAMS accreditation workshop in Denver. The progress we've made since then, we have, with Columbia Southern University, it's an all online program out of Alabama, and then also Purdue University have both agreed to form articulation agreements with us.
Nice.
So what we are currently working on is producing our curriculum to both universities so that they can review it. Once we have the articulation agreement, there are 2 puzzle pieces we're missing right now. The articulation agreement with the university and then a clinical site agreement with a hospital. And IU Health has their general counsel is supposed to get back to me today on the political side agreement for IE Frankfurt and IE Barnett. So once we have those two pieces of the puzzle, we'll be able to submit our application for accreditation. And that process takes anywhere from 60 to 90 days.
So you mentioned Purdue and Columbia.
Yep.
And Alabama. So why do we have two, or like are they two different? Will someone get something from one versus the other, or like how's that work, I guess?
So both will grant credits towards your degree. So if somebody wanted to stay local and go through Purdue University and try to get a bachelor's degree in biology, chemistry, other science program, they would be able to do that. Whereas if they just wanted to do an all-online program through Columbia Southern, they would have that opportunity as well.
Follow now. All right, thank you for explaining that.
Of course. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay, that's all I have.
All
Thank you.
right, thanks. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I will move on to claims. I have Friday claims dated October 21st in the amount of $4,319.78. Claims dated October 28th in the amount of $29,690.65. Claims dated November 4th in the amount of $26,199.54. And bi-weekly claims dated November 7th in the amount of $632,218.84. And I have court claims dated $26,210.15. And lastly, we have a claim dated October 25th in the amount of $74,830.50.
Motion to approve claims.
Second. Okay, motion carries 3-0 to approve claims. Next up, we have payroll dated October 21st in the amount of $448,665.12.
Motion to approve payroll.
Second.
Motion carries 3-0 to approve payroll. Lastly, we have minutes from our October 18th.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Second. Motion carries 2-0 on the minutes. Is there any other business that needs to come before the commissioners?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Thank you. See you next. Minutes reports.